Welcome to this first session of the Go Core coaching program. And I'm very excited about it. And, hopefully by now you've read Express Start, you've gotten into some of the materials that we have in Senseno. And everything that we do it to excel your career. I love where it says Go Core coaching in the Express Start. And we have a quote here from Jim Rohn. Work harder on yourself than you do at your job. And what he means by that is that if you put more work into yourself than you do at making money or working or all the other things that you're engaged in, you will develop and you will become a very valuable person, and not in the sense of that not everyone has the equal value, but in the sense of being paid for the work that you do, you will become very valuable. And that leads me into the Go Core coaching. Core coaching is about getting the insights, getting the knowledge. And one of the statements that I made many years ago, which I still like to repeat once in a while today, is that everything is easy if you just know how to do it. So everything is easy. Speaking another language is easy if you know how to do it. Taking up another kind of, or when you have somebody that already knows something and they do it, it's easy. It's like getting prepared for this. I had some issues with my MacBook or with the programs on my MacBook, and it was difficult for me to solve it because I'm not a computer expert. And that's why I say everything becomes easy, and you save time, you save stress, you save money, you save energy when you know how to do something. This is the time where you once a month will look into depth on looking at the areas in your business life specifically, but also the areas personally there you could improve. This is what we call the personal development and the professional development. Which areas could you immediately become better in? And then make it a monthly routine. And I know for sure that together with your sponsorship upline and together with all the people in your team that you later on will bring through the coaching program, you will make an enormous progress. So let's get into it and look at the first month's coaching program. And we'll look at the leadership philosophy of the slight edge. So that will be the main subject here at the end. But I remember a story from a lot of years ago. I was a little boy, I was growing up. And my dad took me mountain hiking. And then at one point he stopped and we were standing on a sort of I'd say sort of a cliff, not maybe directly a steep cliff, but it was very, very steep hilly, a hill going downwards. And we looked out over a forest. And then my father said that my grandfather planted a lot of small trees here when I was just a young boy. And obviously, when I was looking at it, it was this gigantic forest. And I was wondering, is it possible like that you can plant a little tree and then it becomes into this enormous forest? And then just a few weeks ago, I was back, not to where my dad showed me this forest, but I was back to the same mountains. And I remember from the times growing up, walking, mountain hiking, and it was all of these small trees that were planted because they built a new road when I was like, I'd say 13, 14 years old. And alongside that road, to build it, they first of all took out all the timber, and now they planted new trees. We were always mountain hiking past that to go up into the mountains. And I was so fascinated because when I looked at those trees now, and we're talking about 35 years, something like that. I was looking at those trees and they were gigantic. They were so big and it was so exciting. And of course, I told my little son about that. So let's see if he pays that forward when he becomes my age talking about the gigantic trees that his dad showed him, and then maybe he comes up with his own examples. But the leadership philosophy of this slight edge is that not everything happens immediately. Some things just needs the time to grow, and I'll get back to discussing the philosophy a little bit later. But every month when you're at the Go Core coaching, we want to look at some specific areas. And these areas are there so we can stay engaged, stay motivated, and we can learn to become the best we can be at the business. So the first area is that to have something grow, to have something speed up, to make your business develop, we need to have a certain amount of activity. It's not easy to do this if there is no activities at all. We have to do something, and we surely recommend to spend as much time as possible. If you're full-time in another job, so you're just doing this part-time, push as close to 15 hours of activity every single week, and you will excel faster. And then it's okay to have it as a hobby and spend whatever time that you want to. And the minute you go full-time, you want to push your activity to maybe 50, 60 hours a week, at least for a period, to really get ahead. So activity is about the hours that we work. It's about the number of customer meetings. It's about the number of partner meetings. It's the number of follow-ups, and of course, other areas. So with the person that you're engaging with in this coaching program, ask questions, find out, is everything well in the area of activity? And we'll later on look at the pipeline. So are they doing the activity of prospecting? Are they building new name lists? Are they contacting? Look through that pipeline of the activities to find out if it's proper. Because without the proper activity, then nearly everything else we talk about becomes not as valid. But if the activity is okay, then we move on to the production. So how much results are we bringing in? What's the actual number of credits that is produced in a week? What's the T number that you're balancing right now or at the end of the last month? Because this tells us the conversion from contact to contract. Sorry, I was messing up the verse there. And this is quite important, because if there is not a proper conversion, it doesn't mean that you can't do this business. Not what it means at all. It just means that at this very moment, there is some skills we're lacking. Going back to my original statement, everything is easy if you know how to do it, and everything is difficult if you don't know how to do it. So by learning here, what are the skills we should improve, then we could better this conversion process from contact to contract. And also this goes, of course, not only for you personally, but it eventually goes for your entire downline team. And again, ask questions and listen intently to find out where is the blockage. Where could we find the one thing that we could work through this month, because this is a monthly coaching program, this month, to make improvements? Is it the closing skill? Is it the getting to know them skill? Is it how we present the offer? Is it the in-depth knowledge of the product that we need to work on? Is it the compensation plan? Is it worthiness issues? Is it on a personal level that they don't feel that they deserve success? Find the area and then work on that over the next month. And then number 3 is the system. Are we creating the duplication that we want? How is the number of tickets to the next event? How is the number of people working independently in your organization? How many knows and works independently with getting customers? How many can work independently with getting personal partners and assist others in the team of getting their personal partners? How does the duplication look to building the local business presentation, the business planning sessions, the home meetings or the health meetings, health parties? How does that look? So have a good discussion about how it is duplicating. And again, what skill do we need to focus on over the next month to better our duplication? And try to select one area each month, work on that area. You don't need to fix everything at once. Just find one area and say, okay, if I improve that one, then I'll improve enough to maybe reach the next rank, which is number 4, the title. Which title do you have? And which titles does members in your team have and work towards? What is the goal for this month? And we'll go a little bit more specifically into that. And when people do reach a new title, when you do reach a new title, do you keep it? Because this can be very critical to have a discussion around asking questions. If you reach the title, you drop down, why did you drop down? And then again, learning the skills that is needed either personally or professionally to combat that. Well, some might say, well, I got to gold and it was more for the recognition. It wasn't for the money. So when I achieved the title, it wasn't that important for me. Okay, why wasn't that important for you? Let's have a discussion about why isn't that important? Because when you drop from gold back down to silver, that means that the team below you that helped promote you to gold, they dropped from silver to not being active at any rank, and they sure didn't progress towards gold. So did you mean that the people in your team wasn't important to you? Or did you mean that the money you made from gold wasn't important to you? And then all of a sudden that could be a wake-up call and say, well, the people in my team, that they get to gold is important. So I never want to do that again. I never want to drop a rank again because I care for my people. I want them to be successful. See, so sometimes you get into the discussion that, well, the reason why I qualified was because we invested in some products. So you find out that the title achieved wasn't achieved with duplication. It was achieved with a 1-month race, which is okay to reach a title. But if you want to stay on it every month, you need to have duplications. No, we jump back up to system and we discuss system again and the duplication process, because the problem wasn't the title. The problem was that we didn't have the system. I hope you're following this, and I'll be giving over the next 14 months different insights and repetitions in this area on this slide to go through this. And now we want to go specifically into what's missing to achieve the new title or rank this month. At this point, if you have it available, log into the back office. If they already have notes, which I would do up front, I'd say, hey, have the numbers with you to the coaching. So then they'll read the numbers to me. And then we review the results and we see what we need to adjust. So if the goal for the month was to achieve executive, that's 3,000 credits in balance. Let's say that we have this coaching at the 15th of the month, and what we have achieved is 500 credits. That means that we're way behind, which means that the activity or the conversion of the activity to production have been too low so far. So now we got to adjust that into the second half of the month, making sure that we up the activity and that we get a better conversion rate. This is the pace setter of the future of your team. So rank advancement on a month-to-month basis, either for yourself or with team members, is absolutely crucial, because people copy you and your leaders' example, and you want that copy to be perfect when they copy you. I at a leadership school, I think it was this year, Randy Gage, a friend of mine, a big mentor in the industry, also is one of the recommended books for this Go Core session. He mentioned in that event that he said to his sponsor, the problem is that no one is copying me. And his sponsor was blunt enough to say, no, that's not the problem. The problem is that everyone is copying you. And this is why working on ourselves becomes so important, because when people copy us, we want that copy to be something that we're proud of, not something that we go, where did they pick up that from? Hope it wasn't me. I hope you understand what I'm meaning. So learn the pipeline method of operation. This is so crucial. And each month I will be spending not a time on everything, because then the meeting becomes endlessly long, but I'll pick one or two of these areas to go through and highlight them, because in the beginning, you know, it could be easy to do the prospecting and the contacting, because you've never talked to anybody about business before. So this is not an issue at all. So you don't need to look so much into where do we meet people daily, because you already have a full phone. Like, you have thousands of contacts in your phone already, or at least some hundred of contacts in your phone already. So you could simply go from that. But this is maybe in month 5 or month 6, you come back to prospecting, because now you've rolled through a lot of the people that you had on the top of your mind. Writing the contact list initially was an easy thing to do. But then when we add to the contact list, going through the months to come, we want to revisit these two on how do we meet new people, how to make strategies for that, which books should we reach about this. And I think in the coaching program, the books about prospecting and contacting is actually coming a little bit, or building contact lists, coming a little bit later in the program, because we have plenty of contacts this month if you're brand new. So just go ahead, write them down, and let's start setting the appointments. And of course, this is where I would spend the time in the beginning, is making sure that the person that I am coaching with knows perfectly how to set a meeting. Because if you don't know how to set a meeting, we can have all sorts of activities, but it's not going to lead to income producing activities. So this is the critical area. Go back and role play the calling script. Ask questions about what do I feel is difficult. Sometimes, again, we touch on worthiness or confidence in the business at this area. So they have the list, they have the contacts, but either they don't feel confident themselves, or they don't feel confident in you, or they don't feel confident in the company to start contacting, or it could be the product. So here is a good discussion. And sometimes they have made up their mind up front on their friends and relationships. So when they want to call to Paul, I picked that random name, Dr. Paul from our company, or their friend Paul. When they want to contact Paul, they have this idea that Paul is a doctor. He might not be interested in this kind of business. Well, we have hundreds, maybe thousands of doctors already involved. So you could give them that information when you get into that specific discussion about their name list. So this is a great opportunity to revisit the setting the appointments, and then going through presentation skills for the first 1, 2, 3 months. I'd focus on there we would go through like opening the meeting, the introduction, the recognition of, or better said than recognition, the complimenting of the person coming to the meeting, how you tell your story, the exact things to do in the closing. And then, of course, follow-up is critical. And the longer into the process we are, the more important follow-up becomes. And you'll see that later on in the next upcoming coaching sessions. I will be spending a lot of time on this follow-up process. And now, through moving people across these 5 steps, you'll eventually get customers and partners. And that's how we make the money. And then in the end, point number 7 is, of course, the reason why we do this is building a team to duplicate the process. And that's where the big business comes from. And that's why that is so critical that we spend time also talking about there. Out of these 6 steps, are you breaking down, or are your team breaking down? And then revisit and go through that. Set up a coaching with somebody in the team, a Go Core coaching with them, start them in the program if they're always breaking down at point number 4. Or if you have somebody that isn't getting started, it's point number 3. Or if you have somebody that have been around for a long time and they say, I don't know who to contact, it's point number 1 or point number 2. And building belief, or they've done a ton of meetings, but there is no results coming in, then it's point number 5. So we want to really go into depth here. And of course, when you've gone through it a certain number of times, maybe all of the things are easy and you skip through this one faster, which I might do in month 6 or 7 or 8 or 10. Let's see how much material we create in this area. And now to our leadership philosophy, the slight edge, which is what I introduced with as well. Based on the principle of compound interest, we believe that small actions performed every day will cause a massive business after 3 years or 5 years or 7 years. And it's not written here, but definitely after 15 years or 30 years or 50 years, because we got to have this long-term perception. You can't see a tree grow, but you still know from experience that 40 years from now, those small trees will be huge. I recommend you go and find somewhere where they planted trees when you were a kid, go and revisit and see how massive those trees became, because that will give you the confidence that even though I'm not seeing progress today, those things that I'm doing, those activities, that prospecting, all of those things that I'm doing, it's counting and it's compounding. All of those things that I'm learning, it's compounding and it's growing towards a massive success in the future. Personal development and success in your business is not about daring to do the great leaps, but rather about the small steps you take every day. This principle of the slight edge, and I'd recommend you to start reading the Slight Edge book with Jeff Olson immediately, about 200 some odd pages, where he goes through the philosophy of the slight edge in details, give you plenty of examples. But I remember struggling with weight loss for a very long time in my life. And I would say that I'm still mindful of weight loss, but I'm not struggling with it like I was in the past. It's a fight to keep the kilos up, but I know how to win the fights is a little bit different. But when I read that book, I realized that the reason why I wasn't successful in losing the weight was that I had an unsuccessful weight loss philosophy. Some would call it strategy. I like the word philosophy because I thought that it was all about losing the weight and then I could get to my normal life. It was all about getting in shape. Then I could get to my normal life and do whatever I wanted to. And then I realized that that doesn't work. I actually had to do some major changes. I had to go into a transformation of my mindset on how I lived my life. I had to realize that it mattered to leave one potato on the plate. I had to realize that it mattered to exchange all of the potatoes on the plate with a salad. I had to realize that it mattered if I parked the car 200, 300 yards away instead of by the door. That gave me some extra steps that day. I had to realize that it mattered to exercise for 10 minutes, even though I couldn't do the hour. I had to, and all of those small things that I thought was unimportant because I was focused on that giant leap where I was just going to go and it was going to be like, okay, no, I'm going to make it. I go on that next diet and just crush it. I had to realize that that could be a part of the strategy, but unless I changed my philosophy on all the other things, I would just drop down and bounce back up. And I used to say that I had lost like thousands of kilograms of body weight, but I was still the same size because I'd regained them. So I'd had all of those yo-yo diet trips, up and down, up and down, up and down. And with implementing the slight edge into my weight loss regime, I got control. And over the next 5 years, I got in the shape of my life. And in the next 10 years after that, I've not been perfect all the time, but I've been in so much better shape and looked so much better than I did when I was 30. And I'm 46 today. And if you find a picture of me from when I was 30 years old, you'd say, you'd recognize me most likely, but you'd say I look better today at 46 than at 30. And that's pretty incredible. And the slight edge philosophy was what was leading me to that. And that's exciting. It's influenced how I invest my money. It's influenced a lot of other things in my life as well. And it will be a great blessing to you. So go through the philosophy, read it together, then have a crucial conversation like I just did. And what insights did you get from it? What actions will you take from it going forward? And then it's time to share ideas and experiences. And you want to spend some time on this. I spent that on the last slide since I didn't have somebody here to discuss it with. So now the book of the month. And I want you to read at least one book every month, okay? At least one book a month. That's a part of being in the GoCore coaching. And I want you to listen to the GoCore app daily. So reading daily, listening daily. And the top of the list this month is the slight edge. If you read that, you could pick up some of the other books and read those instead. If you read all of them, you go and find and recommend another book. But there is other books as well. And then some of you say, well, I really want to dig into it. I want to transform in the next 14 months. Well, then you go on a program where you read 4 books a month. And for this month, I've only picked one slightly big book. And then we have the second one, Eat That Frog with Brian Tracy, which is, I actually like the Swedish title better because it says Eat the Ugliest Frog First. But Eat That Frog with Brian Tracy is about doing it, not waiting, not hesitating, I lost the word that I wanted to use there, but just getting into that action mode immediately instead of holding yourself back and instead of procrastinating was what I was looking for as a word there. Great book, great inspirational, and it's so quick, so small, so easy. I love those small books. And then we've got Making the First Circle Work with Randy Gage, absolute must read. If you don't get read it this month, pick it up later on. And then Strengthen Your Immune System with Dr. Paul Clayton. So it's time to schedule the next GoCore coaching. Set it up a month from now. Come back, watch my next video on philosophy number 2 of the GoCore coaching in a month from now. And in the meantime, work on yourself harder than you work on your job. Work on your personal skills, work on your professional skills, work on your attitudes, your behaviors, and implement that slight edge strategy and philosophy in your life. And I believe that it will change your life forever to the better, and you will forever be grateful. Thank you so much for being with me this month, and I see you next month.